People play video games for many different reasons. Some people play it to simply relax after a long day's work, while others play it to reconnect with friends over long distances. Now, sometimes you don't know which type of player you are. So, when my roommate sent me a screenshot of his hours that he played on the Switch this year, I realized that Nintendo does a Nintendo Wrapped, a year in review, if you will.
So, if you are interested, come along and discover what me and my roommates have done on our Nintendo Switches in the year 2024.
My first roommate, which I will codename Bob, got addicted to Vampire Survivors because of me. He played 7 different games over the year, and he played for 400 hours. His top 3 games are Vampire Survivors, an indie roguelike game where you upgrade your character and it's an auto shooter, Pokemon Sword, which is the first Pokemon game he ever played, and Minecraft Dungeons, which is a game that we have been playing since 2020. Now, if you look at the numbers, his top 2 games account for 339 hours of his total time. If you add the 47 hours from Minecraft Dungeons, then that means that the other 4 games he played during 2024 accounts for only 16 hours. Is that right? Did I do the math right? Which this just shows us that Bob is an obsessive player. He doesn't play tons of different games, but the games he does, he enjoys his time and he makes sure to find every single detail that he can because he wants to enjoy the game to its completion. Now, my other roommate, who is the idiot who bought every single Lord of the Rings commander deck and mixed them together because he had never played Magic before, who I will codename Tim, has played 12 different games for 426 hours this year, which is only 20 more hours as Bob, but twice as many games as him. Now, Tim, like Bob, is also addicted to Vampire Survivors, but Tim is more addicted to Pokemon, as his number 3 and number 1 game are both different Pokemon games. And if we were including the month of December, I could tell you that a different Pokemon game also would be very high up on the list. Tim, Bob, and I all have a bit more free time during the summer. And Tim thought that it would be a fun idea, fun challenge to play through Pokemon Sword and Shield together. Just at similar paces where we're both going through the gym battles next to each other. We're playing it, we're talking about our unique experiences. So that is how Bob got introduced to Pokemon. And as we saw on Bob's list, he enjoyed the game very much. Tim played it for 210 hours, which is nearly half of his game time for the year.
Now, there's a little bit of fun information that Nintendo gives you. Nintendo tells you how many hours you played during each month, and it also tells you which game was most played during that month. Because of that Pokemon challenge that Tim had, for Tim and Bob, the summer months were dominated by Pokemon Shield and Pokemon Sword. August shows this well, where it is the only game that Bob played, playing it for 64 hours out of 64 hours. But for Tim cheated on Pokemon Shield. He played Pokemon Shield for 101 hours, which means he played 4 hours of a different game. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I have it written on the script, so I have to tisk, tisk, tisk.
Finally, for me, I am the biggest gamer of all 3 of us. So it was a surprise to us all when I only had 173 hours on the Nintendo Switch, which both of my roommates' top played games individually had more time than my entire Switch catalog. And I played 23 different games, which, like Tim nearly doubling Bob's game count, I nearly doubled Tim's game count.
This and my top 3 games being Pokemon Sword, Played Up, and Mario Party Jamboree shows how I use the Nintendo Switch differently for gaming. I play Switch mainly to play video games with friends. And while Pokemon Sword is a single-player game, I only played it when one of my roommates was around playing it as well. We would talk about the different Pokemon on our team and which Pokemon we were trying to catch, and sometimes we would do the Pokemon dens together to catch a Gigamax thing.
Now, also may I add that Tim and Bob both had a large game time because they were playing at a similar speed, while I was speedrunning the game. And I have played a few more hours since the Nintendo Year Review, and I have beaten the game and it took me about 42 hours. Whereas both of them have played it for much longer time than me. That's because I was speedrunning it, just to keep up with them.
But I also play games on Steam. So I found the Steam yearly review and looked at the games that I played there. Now, Steam tells you exactly which games you play during which month, but it doesn't give you the total hours, and it doesn't give you the total hours of any one individual game either. However, Steam does give you the percentage played. So, of all the games that you played this game for X percent of the total time. But we don't know what the total time is. Luckily, there is one game that I have only played in 2024, which is Slay the Spire. So, 10% of my Steam time was Slay the Spire. And at the time of the Steam review coming out, I had played Slay the Spire for 30 hours. So, using some simple multiplication, we can determine that I had played 300 hours on Steam during the 2024 year. Adding that to my 173 hours on the Nintendo Switch, we get that I played 473 hours of video games this year, which makes more sense. It's a chunk more than my roommates Tim and Bob, but it's not as far as I thought it would be. I thought I played video games much more than them. And looking at my Steam games that I played this year, a lot of those games are single player, whereas a lot of my Nintendo Switch games are multiplayer, which shows I play on the computer for single player games and I like to use Switch for multiplayer games. How neat. So there you have it. That's my total video game in review and a comparison to my roommate's Nintendo Switch year review. If you are interested in your own Nintendo Switch year and you're just hearing about it now, you can find voice crack. You can find your data at your My Nintendo account online. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching.
Now also, I know for a fact that all of my time in PlateUp and most of my time in other party games like Mario Kart, Mario Party Jamboree, and Vampire Survivors were played multiplayer with one or both of my roommates. And so if we added that time to their total video game time, I'm sure my time wouldn't even be that much higher than them, all right? Okay? I'm not being defensive. I'm not being defensive. No, shut up. Shut up. Stop watching this video. That's the outros. Shut up, nerd.
Gosh, I'm gonna go play some video games now.